What happens when the weakest wolf in the pack discovers she was never weak at all? Just caged? For Isla Thorne, life in the Shadowpine pack meant keeping her head down, her voice quiet, and her Omega status accepted. She scrubbed floors while others trained. She mended clothes while others hunted. She existed in the margins of pack life, a shadow among shadows, grateful simply to belong. But when Alpha Damon Blackwood rejected her as his fated mate in front of 500 wolves at the Harvest Moon ceremony, declaring her unworthy of standing beside an alpha, everything changed. And what happens next? No one was prepared for. Not Damon, not the pack, not even Isla herself. Because the rejection didn't just break her heart, it shattered the magical binding that had kept her true nature locked away for 23 years. And when her power finally awakened, it didn't whisper. It roared. The harvest moon hung fat and golden over the Shadowpine territory, casting long shadows through the ancient pines that gave the pack its name. Isla stood at the edge of the ceremonial grounds, her fingers twisted in the simple gray dress her mother had laid out that morning. Gray for Omegas, always gray. Stop fidgeting, her mother, Clara, hissed from beside her. The scent of lavender and anxiety rolled off Isla in waves she couldn't control. Her mother's scent, rosemary and disappointment, mingled with it in a way that made Isla's stomach clench. I can't help it, Isla whispered back. Around them, the pack assembled in careful hierarchy. Alphas at the front, their scents heavy with dominance, leather and smoke and power. Betas in the middle, practical and steady. And Omegas like her at the back, easily forgotten, easily dismissed. Except tonight, Isla couldn't be forgotten. Because 3 months ago, on the summer solstice, the mating bond had snapped into place between her and Damon Blackwood, the pack's alpha. She'd felt it like lightning through her veins, searing and undeniable. She'd looked across the bonfire and found his eyes already on her, gold as the flames, wide with the same shock. He'd felt it too. For 3 months, he'd avoided her. Wouldn't meet her eyes. Wouldn't speak to her. And Isla had told herself it was fine, that he needed time, that an alpha and an omega was unusual but not unheard of, that the moon goddess didn't make mistakes. She'd clung to that last part like a prayer. The ceremony began with Elder Margot's invocation to the moon goddess, her reedy voice carrying across the assembled pack. Isla barely heard it. Her heart hammered against her ribs as Damon took his place at the center of the grounds, flanked by his beta counselors. He wore black, as always, and his scent, forest and embers and ozone and steel, reached her even from a distance. The mate bond pulled at her chest, a golden thread she couldn't see but felt with every breath. Tonight, Elder Margot announced, our alpha will declare his chosen mate, and the pack will witness the marking ceremony that binds them for life. Chosen mate, not fated mate. The distinction made Isla's breath catch. Damon Blackwood, step forward and name your chosen. Time stopped. Damon's eyes swept the crowd, and for one heartbeat, Isla thought they landed on her. The bond thrummed between them, insistent and bright. Then his gaze moved past her as if she were invisible. I choose Vivian Ashford as my mate and Luna. The world tilted. Vivian stepped forward from the alpha section, beautiful and terrible, her crimson dress a slash of color against the night. Her scent, cinnamon and iron and something sharp like blood, washed over the crowd as she smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. No, Isla breathed. The bond in her chest convulsed, twisting like a living thing. Her mother's hand clamped on her wrist. Stay silent. But Damon wasn't finished. He turned, and this time his eyes found Isla with terrible precision. I also formally reject the fated bond with Isla Thorne. She is Omega. She is weak. She is unworthy of standing beside an alpha or bearing his heirs. By the power granted to me as Alpha of Shadowpine, I sever this bond before the moon goddess and the pack. The words hit like physical blows. Isla felt the bond begin to tear, not a clean break but a ripping, shredding agony that started in her chest and radiated outward. She gasped, doubling over. Around her, the pack remained silent. No one moved to help. No one spoke in her defense. I, Isla Thorne, Damon continued, his voice carrying the weight of Alpha Command. Accept this rejection. Speak the words, Omega. The command forced her upright, forced her mouth to open. She fought it, but an Omega couldn't resist an Alpha's direct order. The words came out broken, barely audible. I accept your rejection. The bond snapped. Isla screamed. It felt like her soul was being torn in half, like every nerve in her body had caught fire. She collapsed to her knees, or her vision whiting out with pain. Distantly, she heard gasps from the crowd, heard Elder Margot's sharp intake of breath. Dramatic, Vivian's voice rang out, dripping with disdain. Typical Omega weakness. Laughter rippled through the Alpha section. When Isla's vision cleared, she found herself staring at the ground, her hands pressed into the dirt. The scent of her own blood filled her nose. She'd bitten her tongue. The space in her chest where the bond had been felt hollow, aching, wrong. Remove her, Damon said flatly. She's disrupting the ceremony. Hands grabbed her arms. Guards, their sense neutral and professional, they hauled her to her feet. Isla's legs wouldn't support her weight. Wait, she managed. Please, You need to leave, Damon cut her off. His face could have been carved from stone. Sao, you have until sunrise to clear Shadowpine territory. Any Omega found here after dawn will be considered rogue and dealt with accordingly. Banishment? Elder Margot's voice cracked with shock. Damon, that's final, he said. Guards, escort her to the border. They dragged Isla through the crowd. She caught glimpses of faces, some pitying, most carefully blank, a few openly contemptuous. She looked for her parents in the Omega section. Her father, Marcus, stared at the ground. Her mother met her eyes for one brief moment, then looked away. They weren't going to help her. They weren't going to say a word. The guards pulled her past the last row of watchers, toward the tree line. Behind them, she heard Elder Margot resume the ceremony, her voice shaking slightly. The pack was already moving on, already forgetting. And by the time they reached the northern border, Isla had gone numb. The pain from the severed bond had settled into a dull, constant ache, and her mind felt wrapped in wool. The guards released her just beyond the boundary markers, ancient stones carved with pack sigils. Don't come back, one of them said. Not cruel, just matter of fact. Orders are to kill rogues on sight. Then they were gone, melting back into the shadows of Shadowpine territory. Isla stood alone at the border, wearing only a thin gray dress, no shoes, no supplies. The forest stretched before her, wild, dark, and utterly indifferent to whether she lived or died. Above, the harvest moon watched in silence. The temperature dropped as Isla walked. She had no destination, no plan. She simply moved, putting one foot in front of the other, because standing still meant thinking, and thinking meant feeling. And feeling would break her completely. The forest floor was rough beneath her bare feet. Pine needles, exposed roots, patches of frost that made her gasp. Her breath plumed white in the air. Autumn was giving way to winter early this year, and she wore nothing but that damned gray dress. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time felt strange, elastic, and wrong. When the first snowflake landed on her nose, Isla almost laughed. Of course. Of course it would snow. Within minutes, the flurries became a blizzard. Wind howled through the trees, driving snow into her eyes, her mouth. Isla wrapped her arms around herself and kept walking, though she could barely see 3 feet ahead. Her feet had gone numb. Her fingers, too. The cold burrowed into her bones. Just a little further, she whispered to herself. Find shelter. Just find shelter. But there was nothing. Just trees and snow and darkness. Her wolf stirred within for the first time since the rejection, a weak, pained presence. Shift, it urged. We'll be warmer with fur. Isla tried. She reached for the transformation, but her body wouldn't respond. The trauma of the severed bond had left her wolf injured, unable to fully emerge. She was going to die out here. The realization came with strange clarity. No dramatic panic, just simple fact. She would freeze to death in these woods, and no one would find her body until spring, if ever. Her legs gave out. Isla fell into a snowdrift, too weak to rise. The cold didn't hurt anymore. That was bad, she knew. That meant the end was close. She thought of her parents' turned backs. When she thought of Damon's stone face. She thought of Vivienne's cruel smile. And she thought, at least I tried. Her eyes drifted closed. Warmth. That was Isla's first conscious thought. She was warm. Her second thought, I'm dead. But death shouldn't hurt this much. Her entire body ached, and her chest still held that hollow space where the bond had been. Isla forced her eyes open. She was in a barn. Old, half-collapsed, but it blocked the wind. And she wasn't alone. Wolves surrounded her. Isla's heart lurched. She tried to sit up, but her body wouldn't obey. The wolves didn't move. They simply watched her with intelligent eyes, their massive bodies pressed close, sharing their heat. She counted them, her mind struggling to focus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 enormous wolves, each larger than any alpha she'd ever seen, their fur various shades of silver, gray, and black. They'd saved her. Why? The word came out as barely a whisper. The largest wolf, silver-black with eyes like frozen mercury, rose to its feet. The others remained still as statues as it padded closer to Isla. Its scent washed over her, aged oak and winter snow and pine and storm, ancient and powerful and utterly unfamiliar. The wolf studied her for a long moment. Then it began to shift. The transformation was unlike any Isla had ever witnessed. Smooth, almost liquid, as bones flowed rather than cracked, as fur receded to reveal skin. Within seconds, a man crouched before her. He was older than Damon, perhaps 40, with silver threading through his dark hair and scars crossing his face and bare chest. His eyes remained that strange mercury color, and his presence pressed against her like a physical weight. This was an alpha, but not like any she'd known. This was something more. "You're alive," he said. His voice was rough, like he didn't use it often. "Good. Who are you?" Isla managed. "My name is Kalen Storm, and we," he gestured to the 9 wolves still surrounding them, "have been waiting for you, Isla Thorne." Her name in his mouth made her flinch. "How do you know my name?" "The same way I knew where to find you. The same way I've known to watch the Shadowpine Pack for 23 years. He settled into a crouch, still uncomfortably close. "Tell me, has anyone ever spoken to you of the matriarch?" Isla shook her head, confused. Kalen's expression shifted. Something that might have been anger, might have been grief. Of course they didn't. They wouldn't want you to know." He took a breath. "There is a prophecy, old as the packs themselves. Shall I tell it to you?" Isla nodded, not trusting her voice. His words came out in a cadence that suggested they'd been spoken exactly this way for generations. When the false bonds break and the weak are cast to wolves, the matriarch will rise from death and snow. She will be gentle as moonlight, fierce as the sun, born of Omega, crowned in ancient power. She will come when the packs have forgotten the old laws, and she will remind them what it means to kneel before a queen. Silence fell, broken only by the wind outside. "I don't understand," Isla whispered. "Your parents bound your power when you were an infant," Kalen said, and each word landed like a hammer blow. "Or they feared what you were, what you would become. So they wrapped your true nature in magic and raised you as a simple Omega. Weak, forgettable, safe. No." But even as Isla denied it, pieces began to fall into place. The way her mother always seemed afraid of her. The way her father couldn't meet her eyes. The healer visits every full moon. The tease that made her sleep for days. "The rejection broke the binding," Kalen continued. "When your mate bond was severed, it shattered the magical chains that held your power locked away. You should be able to feel it now if you look." Isla turned her awareness inward, past the pain, past the exhaustion, and there. A presence, vast and old and wild. Her wolf. Not the weak, injured thing she'd known all her life, but something immense. The is something that pressed against the confines of her human form like the ocean pressed against a dam. What am I? Isla breathed. Kalen smiled, and it transformed his scarred face. You are the matriarch, the first in 10 generations, the one the moon goddess sends when the balance has tipped too far toward cruelty. He gestured to the 9 wolves. And we are the Shadow Guard, bound by blood oath and prophecy to find you, protect you, and serve you until death. One by one, the wolves began to shift. Men and women emerged, ranging from their 20s to their 50s, each bearing scars and that same ancient weight in their eyes. A woman with short-cropped black hair and amber eyes stepped forward. I'm Thorn Ash, second of the guard. We've been searching for you for decades. A young man with copper hair grinned. Finn Reyes, our youngest member. I was starting to think the prophecy was bullshit. Language, an older woman chided. Vera Moon. I do healing and strategy. They introduced themselves one after another. Marcus Stone, Raven Blackthorn, Celine Cross, Darius Winter, Kira Frost, and Lucian Gray. 9 warriors sworn to a prophecy to her. This is insane, Isla said. I'm nobody. I'm just... You were made to believe you were nobody, Kalen interrupted gently, but your body is about to remember the truth. The binding is broken, but the transformation will take time. Your wolf needs to fully awaken. As if on cue, Isla felt movement inside her. The presence, her wolf, stirred, and this time it spoke. Finally, a voice said in her mind, feminine and ancient and filled with relief. Finally, I can reach you. Isla gasped. Mosh, she's talking to me. Good, Kalen said. Listen to her. She's been waiting 23 years to meet you properly. My name is Luna, the wolf said. And we, sister of my soul, are going to remind them what power really means. Isla felt her body begin to heat from the inside out. It wasn't painful, not yet. But it was intense, like standing too close to a bonfire. It's starting, Vera said, moving closer. Everyone give her space. The Shadow Guard formed a protective circle as Isla's body began to change. This wasn't like the partial shifts she'd attempted before. This was total, comprehensive. Her bones didn't snap and break. They flowed like water, lengthening and reshaping. Her spine arched as new muscle flooded her frame. Fur erupted across her skin, not coarse, but soft, silvery white with undertones that seemed to shift between pearl and moonstone. The transformation accelerated. Isla felt herself growing, expanding far beyond what a normal shift should produce. Her senses exploded outward. She could hear heartbeats from a mile away, could smell the individual scents of every guard, could feel the vibration of paws on earth 3 territories over. Energy erupted from her core, washing through the barn in a wave that made the Shadow Guard step back. The air itself seemed to shimmer. When the shift completed, Isla stood on 4 legs and looked down. Down. She towered over Kalen's wolf form, easily twice his size. Her paws were massive, her shoulders thick with muscle. But it was the reflection in a puddle of melted snow that made her breath catch. Her eyes glowed. Not metaphorically, they actually glowed. A soft silver light that pushed back the darkness. This is us, Luna said, satisfaction in her mental voice. This is who we really are. Isla tried to move and stumbled. Everything felt different. The weight distribution, the power in her limbs. Kalen shifted back to human form. Don't fight it, just feel. Isla took a careful step. Then another. The 3rd step came easier. By the 10th, she was moving with a predator's grace, her massive paws silent on the barn floor. She raised her head and, without thinking, howled. The sound shook the barn's foundation. Birds exploded from trees half a mile away. And somewhere in the distance, Isla felt rather than heard the Shadow Pine Pack's wolves cringe in instinctive submission. When silence returned, Thorn was grinning fiercely. Now that's a proper introduction, Finn laughed. Did you feel it? Every wolf within 5 territories just submitted. They felt their queen, Kalen said quietly. His eyes met Isla's glowing ones. Welcome, matriarch. We have much work to do. Isla shifted back to human form. the process smooth now that she understood it. She stood naked and unashamed, power thrumming through every cell. "My parents," she said. "They did this to me." Kaylin nodded. "They were given a choice when you were born. The pack elders saw what you were and feared it. Your parents could either bind your power or watch the pack kill you. They chose binding." "They chose wrong," Isla said, and her voice carried an edge it never had before. "They should have let me die. Or better yet, they should have run with me, raised me in exile, on anything but this." "What's done is done," Vera said gently. "The question is what you do now." Isla looked at each of the Shadow Guard in turn, these strangers who'd searched for her, who'd saved her, who'd been sworn to her before she was even born. "You mentioned old laws," she said to Kaylin. "What are they?" His smile was sharp. "The laws that existed before Alphas decided might made right. The laws that said Omegas were sacred, not shameful. The laws that punished cruelty and rewarded honor," he paused. "The laws that a matriarch enforces." "Then I need to learn them," Isla said. "All of them. And I need to learn to control this." She gestured to herself. "Because Damon Blackwood made a mistake tonight. He didn't just reject me. He declared war on the old ways without knowing it." "And what will you do about it?" Thorn asked. And Isla felt Luna rise within her, felt the power settle into her bones like it had always belonged there. "I'm going to remind him, and everyone else, that queens don't ask for permission." The days turned to weeks. Isla learned that the barn was just a temporary shelter. The Shadow Guard's true home was deeper in the wild territories, a compound built into the side of a mountain, hidden by ancient magic that even Alpha Scouts couldn't penetrate. It was beautiful. Rough-hewn stone and timber, open to the sky in places, with training grounds and a massive library filled with texts and languages Isla was slowly learning to read. Every morning began before dawn. Kaylin would wake her, and they'd run the territory borders in wolf form. Isla learned to move with her new size, to use her enhanced senses, or to mark territory with power scent that told other wolves to stay away. "You're holding back," Kaylin said on the fifth morning, his mercury eyes sharp. They'd both shifted back to human form at the eastern overlook. "Your wolf is fighting your control." "I'm trying to be careful," Isla protested. She wrapped her arms around herself, still getting used to the casual nudity that came with frequent shifting. "Careful is what got you trapped for 23 years. He stepped closer, his scent washing over her, oak and snow and storm. It was becoming familiar now, comforting. "Luna doesn't need careful, she needs trust." Isla closed her eyes and reached inward. "He's right," Luna said immediately. "You keep putting walls between us. I'm not your enemy." "I know." Isla took a breath. "I'm just scared. What if I lose control? Mana, what if I hurt someone? What if you finally stop apologizing for existing?" Luna's mental voice gentled. "Sister, we are meant to be powerful. It's not something to fear." When Isla opened her eyes, Kaylin was watching her with something that might have been pride. "Better?" he said. "Now let's see if you can pin me." The sparring sessions were brutal. Kaylin held nothing back, using his centuries of experience to find every weakness in her technique. Isla lost count of how many times she ended up face down in the dirt. But slowly, she improved. Thorn taught her combat strategy. Size is an advantage, but only if you use it right. Watch. The scarred woman shifted into a wolf, smaller than Isla but faster, darting in to nip at vulnerable joints before Isla could react. "See? You're broadcasting your moves, your ears, your eyes. They all give you away. Learn to lie with your body." Finn worked with her on scent manipulation, showing her how to mask her presence or amplify it at will. "The thing about being a matriarch," he said, his copper hair falling into his eyes as he gestured, "is that you can make wolves submit without even trying. But that's crude. It's better to make them think submission was their idea." Vera taught her healing. Isla discovered she could sense injuries in others, could push her power into their wounds and accelerate recovery. "This gift is sacred," Vera said, as Isla successfully healed a gash on Marcus Stone's arm. Healers are rare among shifters. Healers with your level of power? I've never heard of one. Each of the guard taught her something different. Raven Blackthorn showed her wilderness survival. Celine Cross taught meditation and mental shielding. Darius Winter worked on endurance. Kira Frost covered pack politics and law. Lucian Gray, the quietest of them all, taught her to read the ancient texts. But it was the evenings that Isla treasured most. After training, after meals, the guard would gather in the common room. They'd tell stories, tease each other, occasionally burst into song. Finn played a battered guitar. Thorn could juggle knives with alarming accuracy. Marcus did impressions that left everyone howling with laughter. They became her family in a way the Shadowpine Pack never had. One night, 3 weeks after her rescue, Isla sat by the fire with Kaylin. The others had gone to bed, leaving them alone. "You never talk about yourself," Isla said. "I know about everyone else." "Yeah, but you're a mystery." Kaylin was quiet for a long moment, firelight playing across his scars. "I was born 243 years ago," he finally said. "I've served 5 matriarchs, though most never fully came into their power before dying. You're the first in a century to actually transform." 200 years? Isla stared. "How?" "The guard doesn't age like normal wolves. We're bound to the prophecy, sustained by it." He met her eyes. "We'll live until you die, or release us from service, whichever comes first." The weight of that settled over Isla. "That's a long time to wait." "It is." He smiled, and it softened the harsh lines of his face. "But you've been worth it." Something in his tone made Isla's pulse quicken. She'd been trying not to notice how her body reacted to him, to his scent, his presence, or the casual touches during training. But denial was becoming difficult. "Kaylin," she started. "I know," he said quietly. "I feel it too." The air between them charged. Isla could hear his heartbeat, could smell the shift in his scent, desire mixing with oak and storm. "I was fated to an alpha who rejected me," Isla said. "I don't trust bonds anymore." "This isn't a bond." Kaylin reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he cupped her face with one scarred hand. "This is choice, yours and mine." Isla leaned into his touch. "I'm still learning who I am." "Then learn. I'll be here." His thumb brushed her cheekbone. "I've waited 2 centuries. I can wait as long as you need." That night, Isla didn't kiss him, but she fell asleep with her head on his shoulder, his scent wrapped around her like safety. And for the first time since the rejection, the hollow space in her chest didn't ache quite so much. The scout from Shadowpine found them on a cold morning in late autumn. Isla was running the eastern border with Raven when her wolf's ears picked up an unfamiliar heartbeat. She stopped, hackles rising. "There," Luna said, hiding behind the oak cluster. Isla shifted to human form and called out, "I know you're there, show yourself." A young beta emerged, hands raised in surrender. His scent, cedar and nervous sweat, carried downwind. "Please don't kill me. I'm just a messenger." "From Shadowpine?" Isla's voice came out harder than she intended. The beta nodded rapidly. "Alpha Damon sent me. He wants you to know there's going to be, he's bringing warriors. Said something about a rogue Omega spreading lies about the pack." Raven, who'd also shifted, bared her teeth. "How many warriors?" 20, maybe more. They're mobilizing now." The beta's eyes widened as he finally got a good look at Isla. "Moon Goddess, the rumors are true. You survived." "I did more than survive." Isla felt Luna press against her control, eager to show this messenger exactly what she'd become. "When will they arrive?" "Tomorrow, midday." The beta took a step back. "I should go. I shouldn't have come, but you helped my sister once, mended her favorite dress when she tore it. I owed you." He shifted and ran before Isla could respond. Raven's amber eyes met hers. "We need to tell Kaylin." By the time they reached the compound, the entire guard was already assembling. Somehow they'd known, perhaps through the bond that tied them to Isla. Kaylin listened to her report with a grim expression. 20 wolves, That's a war party. They're coming for me, Isla said, to finish what the rejection started. Then we give them a welcome they won't forget. Thorn was already strapping on leather armor, checking weapons. We can take 20. No killing, Isla said sharply. The entire guard turned to look at her. Not unless there's absolutely no other choice. I won't start my reign with unnecessary bloodshed. Your reign? Finn raised an eyebrow. Isla lifted her chin. If they're coming to my territory, they're going to learn who rules it. But we do this smart. Kaelin, what would a matriarch do in the old ways? His smile was fierce and proud. She'd give them a chance to kneel, one chance. And if they refused? He shrugged. Yeah, then she'd remind them why queens don't ask twice. They spent the rest of the day preparing. The guard set up the clearing near the southern border, placing old stones in patterns Isla was learning to recognize as a ritual space. Lucian drew symbols in the dirt, ancient marks of challenge and judgment. That night, Isla couldn't sleep. She paced the compound until Kaelin found her on the eastern overlook. Nervous? He asked. Terrified, she admitted. What if I fail? What if I'm not ready? You are ready. He stood beside her, solid and certain. You've been ready since the moment you survived that rejection. Everything else is just remembering what you already know. Isla leaned against him, drawing strength from his presence. Will you stand with me tomorrow? Always. His arm came around her waist. But Isla, this fight is yours. We'll be there if you need us, but they need to see you. Just you. The matriarch in full power. She understood what he meant. This had to be her victory, or it would mean nothing. When the sun rose on the day of confrontation, Isla dressed carefully. Not in gray. Never again in gray. The guard had given her clothes in silver and white, colors that echoed her wolf form. She braided her hair back and stood before the mirror. The woman looking back was unrecognizable from the Omega who'd scrubbed floors in Shadowpine. This woman had power in her eyes, strength in her shoulders. This woman looked like she could command armies. We can, Luna said. We will. At midday, the Shadowpine war party arrived. Isla stood in the center of the ritual clearing, alone as Kaelin had suggested. Here the Shadow Guard waited in the tree line, visible but not threatening. Yet, Daemon Blackwood led the warriors into the clearing, magnificent and terrible in his alpha glory. Vivienne walked beside him, her crimson dress replaced by black leather armor. Behind them came 20 of Shadowpine's finest fighters. The sight of Daemon still caused a phantom ache where the mate bond had been, but nothing more. Whatever feelings Isla had once harbored were ash. Daemon stopped 10 feet away, his eyes scanning the clearing before settling on her. Shock flickered across his face, brief but unmistakable. Isla Thorn, he said, his voice carrying alpha command. You were exiled. This is pack territory. No, Isla said calmly. This is wild territory, unclaimed by any pack, until now. Vivienne laughed. An Omega claiming territory? That's rich. I'm not an Omega? Isla let power leak into her voice, just a hint. Every wolf in the clearing flinched. I never was. Daemon's eyes narrowed. Explain yourself. Why? So you can reject me again? Isla took a step forward. The warriors behind Daemon shuffled back. You severed our bond and cast me out to die. You don't get explanations. You get one choice. Leave my territory peacefully, or learn why your pack's ancestors taught you to fear the dark. Your territory, Daemon's voice rose. You're delusional. You're the matriarch, Kaelin said, emerging from the tree line. The rest of the guard followed, and as they moved into the clearing, Isla felt their power join hers, not overwhelming her, but supporting. She is the one your elders whispered about, the one they tried to hide. Daemon looked at Kaelin, and something like recognition crossed his face. The Shadow Guard. I thought they were legend. We're very real, Thorn said. Her hand rested casually on her knife. Vivienne pushed forward. This is ridiculous. She's one wolf. We're 20. Matriarch or not, we can... She lunged. Isla moved on instinct. She shifted mid-motion, her massive wolf form materializing in the space between heartbeats. Vivian's smaller wolf crashed into her chest and bounced off like she'd hit a wall. Isla didn't pursue. She simply stood there, easily 3 times Vivian's size, her silver fur glowing in the sunlight, her eyes blazing with power. The Shadowpine warriors saw her, really saw her, for the first time. One by one, they dropped to their bellies in submission. They couldn't help it. The instinct to bow before a superior wolf was hardwired into their DNA. Only Damon and Vivian remained standing, and even they were trembling with the effort. Isla shifted back to human form, naked and unashamed, and utterly in control. She looked down at Vivian, who was struggling to rise. "You wanted to fight?" Isla's voice was soft, almost gentle. "Then fight." Vivian launched herself forward again, teeth bared. Isla caught her by the throat, one hand, effortless, and lifted the snarling wolf off the ground. Power flowed from her palm, not hurting, but immobilizing. Vivian went still, her eyes wide with terror. "I could kill you," Isla said conversationally. "I could snap your neck with one squeeze. The old laws would support it. You attacked first." She paused. "But I'm not interested in killing. And I'm interested in justice." She set Vivian down, releasing the power hold. The dark-furred wolf scrambled back to Damon's side. "Alpha Damon Blackwood," Isla said formally. "You rejected your fated mate. You cast her out to die in winter. You broke sacred laws and brought dishonor to your pack." She let silence hang for a moment. "What do you have to say?" Damon's jaw worked. The scent of his confusion and fear, his forest and embers gone acrid, filled the air. "I didn't know. You were Omega. Weak. I thought—" "You thought wrong." Isla's eyes found her parents in the war party. They'd come. Of course they had. Her mother's face was wet with tears. Her father looked like he might be sick. "Marcus and Clara Thorne, come forward." They obeyed, moving like prisoners to execution. "Tell them," Isla said, "or to tell your Alpha what you did." Her father spoke first, his voice breaking. "We bound her power. When she was 3 days old, the pack elders gave us a choice: bind her or watch them kill an infant. We chose binding." "We thought we were saving you," her mother whispered. "We thought if you never knew, you could have a normal life. Be safe." "Safe," Isla repeated. The word tasted like ash. "You thought keeping me weak would keep me safe. Instead, you made sure I'd be treated as worthless. Made sure I'd be rejected by my fated mate. Made sure I'd nearly die in the snow." She took a breath. "Did it work? Do I look safe to you now?" Her mother collapsed, sobbing. Isla felt Luna's rage pressing against her control, demanding vengeance. But beneath the rage was something else. Grief. These were still her parents, despite everything. She turned back to Damon. "You and Vivian will return to Shadowpine. You will call a pack meeting, and you will tell them what happened here, all of it. The matriarch has risen. She claims the wild territories as her own, and she will be watching how packs treat their omegas going forward. And if I refuse?" Damon's voice was steady, but Isla could smell his fear. "Then I'll make you kneel." Isla gestured to the Shadow Guard. "You see 10 wolves. Let me show you what you're really facing." As one, the guard shifted. They didn't become normal wolves. They became something from legend, dire wolves, massive and ancient, each one larger than Damon's alpha form. Their eyes glowed with power, their presence pressing down on the Shadowpine warriors like physical weight. Damon went to his knees. He couldn't help it, or the combined presence of the guard and Isla was too much for any alpha to resist. "Mercy," he gasped out. "I ask for mercy." Isla walked to him, crouched so they were eye to eye. "I will give you mercy, but not forgiveness. You need to earn that." She placed a hand on his bowed head. "As of this moment, I claim the wild territories. Any wolf who enters without permission will face me. Any pack that abuses their omegas will answer to me. The old laws are returning, Alpha Blackwood. Spread the word." She stood, releasing him. "Now go. Take your warriors and your chosen mate. And Damon?" He looked up, and in his eyes she saw the beginning of understanding, of regret. You didn't just lose a fated mate, Isla said quietly. You lost your queen. That's a mistake you'll carry for the rest of your life. The Shadowpine wolves retreated, while some crawling backwards before they were far enough away to turn and run. Only her parents remained, kneeling before her. What will you do to us? Her father asked. Isla looked at them for a long moment. I should banish you. Cast you out the way you allowed me to be cast out. She saw her mother flinch. But that would make me just like Daemon. So instead, you're going to go back to Shadowpine. You're going to tell the truth about what you did. And you're going to spend the rest of your lives making amends. Not to me, but to every Omega in that pack who's been made to feel worthless. Can you ever forgive us? Her mother asked. I don't know, Isla said honestly. Ask me again in a few years, when I've seen whether your actions match your tears. Her parents left, broken and ashamed. When silence finally returned to the clearing, our Isla stood in the center of the ritual space and threw her head back. I am Isla Thorne, she called out to the forest, to the sky, to any wolf within 100 miles. I am the matriarch. These wild territories are mine by right of power, by right of prophecy, and by right of choice. Let any who would challenge this come forward now. Only the wind answered. Kaelin shifted back to human form and approached. He knelt before her, his scarred face upturned. My matriarch, my queen. One by one, the rest of the guard followed his lead. 9 warriors, ancient and powerful, bowing before her. Isla felt tears prick her eyes. Rise, she said softly. All of you. You're not my servants, you're my family. As they stood, Thorne grinned. Does this mean we can stop with the formal titles? In private, yes, Isla laughed. Adi, in public. She looked at each of them in turn. In public, we show them what real power looks like. Not through cruelty, but through strength tempered with mercy. Not through domination, but through justice. Spoken like a true queen, Kaelin said. That night, they celebrated. Not with grand ceremonies, but with food and laughter, and the easy companionship of those who'd found their place. Isla sat with her back against Kaelin's chest, his arms around her waist, and felt something she'd never expected to feel again. Peace. What happens now? Finn asked, sprawled by the fire. Isla considered. Now we build. We establish the territory properly. Set up borders, patrol routes. We reach out to other packs. Let them know the matriarch has returned and what that means. Some of them won't like it, Vera warned. The alphas who've grown comfortable with absolute power. Then they'll learn to adjust, Isla said. Or they'll learn what happens when they cross a queen. Kaelin's arms tightened around her. And on a personal level? Isla tilted her head back to look at him, at the scarred face that had become so dear to her. On a personal level? I'm going to stop apologizing for existing. I'm going to embrace every bit of power the moon goddess gave me. And I'm going to see where this thing between us leads. His smile was worth every hardship that had led her here. I can work with that. As the fire burned low and the guard drifted off to their quarters, Isla stayed with Kaelin under the stars. The scent of oak and snow and storm wrapped around her, mixing with her own lavender and morning dew until they were indistinguishable. I thought my life ended when Daemon rejected me, she said quietly. And instead, it began. She turned in his arms, meeting those mercury eyes. Thank you. For waiting, for finding me, for believing when I didn't. Always, he said simply. When they kissed, it felt like coming home. Not the false bond she'd had with Daemon, but something chosen. Something real. Above them, the moon watched in approval. Months passed. Isla's territory grew. Word spread of the matriarch's return, and wolves began to seek her out. Mostly Omegas, fleeing cruel packs, looking for sanctuary. She welcomed them all. A small village formed at the heart of her territory. Not a pack in the traditional sense, but a community built on the old laws. Omega, Beta, Alpha. It didn't matter. Everyone contributed. Everyone had value. Isla learned to balance mercy with strength. She mediated disputes, enforced boundaries, and when necessary, reminded wolves why challenging a matriarch was a bad idea. Reports came from Shadowpine. Daemon had kept his word, telling the pack everything. Vivian had been stripped of her title as Chosen Luna. The pack wouldn't accept a wolf who'd attacked the matriarch. Some said Daemon was a changed alpha now, fairer and more just. Isla didn't care. She'd moved past him. Her parents sent letters. She didn't respond, but she didn't throw them away either. Forgiveness, she was learning, wasn't something you decided. It was something that happened slowly, like ice melting in spring. And through it all, Kaelin was there, teaching her, protecting her, loving her in ways that had nothing to do with fate and everything to do with choice. On a cool spring evening, Isla stood on her favorite overlook with the Shadow Guard spread out behind her. Her territory stretched before her, forest and mountain, stream and meadow, home. "There's something you should know," Lucien said, speaking up for the first time in days. When he talked, it meant something important. The old texts mention a blood moon coming. When it rises, ancient things wake, things that predate even the matriarch line. "How ancient?" Isla asked. "Old enough to be dangerous." His amber eyes were troubled. "Old enough that even we don't know what they are." Thorn grinned. "So we get to fight something new. Good. I was getting bored with the usual alpha challenges." "When does this blood moon rise?" Isla asked. 3 months, Lucien said. "Maybe 4. Isla nodded slowly. "Then we prepare, we train, and we strengthen our borders and our alliances." She looked at each of her guard. "And when whatever's coming arrives, we face it together." "Together," they echoed. As the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Kaelin moved to stand beside her. His hand found hers. "Scared?" he asked. "Terrified," Isla admitted. "But also excited? Is that wrong?" "It's honest." He squeezed her hand. "You've spent your whole life being told to be small. Now you get to be everything you were meant to be." Isla turned to face him fully. "And you'll be there?" "Until the end of time or the breaking of the world, whichever comes first." His scarred face was serious, but his eyes held warmth. "I've waited centuries for you, Isla Thorn. I'm not going anywhere." She pulled him down for a kiss, deep and claiming and full of promise. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his. "I love you," she whispered. "Not because of fate or prophecy, because you chose me when I was nothing." "You were never nothing," he corrected gently. "You were always this. You just didn't know it yet." Behind them, the guard tactfully turned away, giving them privacy. Finn started playing his guitar. Thorn and Raven began sparring, their laughter carrying on the wind. And Isla, standing with her chosen mate on the mountain she'd claimed, surrounded by the family she'd found, felt Luna's presence settle contentedly in her soul. "We're home," Luna said. "We are," Isla agreed. The moon rose full and bright, blessing her territory with silver light. And so Isla Thorn's journey from rejected Omega to matriarch came full circle. She learned that true power isn't about dominance. It's about choice, about standing up when the world pushes you down, about turning pain into strength and loneliness into community. She was gentle as moonlight and fierce as the sun, exactly as the prophecy foretold. Her story became legend. Omegas across the territories whispered it to each other in secret, drawing courage from her example. Alphas spoke her name with respect, remembering what happened when you underestimate those you deem weak. And in the wild territories, under the protection of the Shadow Guard, a new order took root. One built on the old laws. One where every wolf had value, regardless of rank. But the blood moon was coming. Ancient evils stirring. And Isla would need every bit of her power, every member of her guard, and every lesson she'd learned to face what was ahead. What do you think happens when that blood moon rises? What ancient force could challenge a matriarch? Would you stand with Isla and the Shadow Guard, or would you run? If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and share your thoughts in the comments. Let me know if you want to hear what happens when the blood moon comes. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of Isla's journey. Because trust me, You won't want to miss what's coming. Thank you for listening. The Wild Territories are just beginning to reveal their secrets, and Isla Thorne's reign as matriarch has only just begun. We'll see you in the next chapter.